The members of the House of Representatives now are making their way back to Washington, D.C. after having a 53-day break that they all took. They're trying to manage their way through a tangled mess at airports all across the country with cancellations and delays, but they are making their way back after the Senate voted, as I mentioned, on its 60-40 vote to end the government shutdown. And joining me now is Washington Stand reporter Casey Harper. Casey, all right, let's get started, first of all, with what's happening in airports all across the country. How is this going to impact the return of the members of the House of Representatives?
Yeah, thanks, Jody. It's a good question because there have been nearly 1,300 flights that were canceled just today. That's not counting the delays we've seen leading up to today. And that's all because of the shutdown, air traffic controllers not able to come to work. Because of that, many lawmakers are actually carpooling to the Capitol, which is kind of amazing. That includes Republican representatives like Rick Crawford of Arkansas and Trent Kelly of Mississippi. And get this one, Jody. Representative Derek Van Orden said he was making the 16-hour drive from Wisconsin to D.C. on his motorcycle.
Hey everybody, it's Congressman Derek Van Orden. I'm just getting a little gas, and then I'm going to ride through Chicago at night on a motorcycle wearing a Green Bay Packers hoodie. So if I don't get a hold of you a little bit, call the Coast Guard, will you? Thanks.
That's a great clip. But the House is expected to vote tomorrow afternoon on this compromise measure that would restore funding to government agencies and end the shutdown, which is now on its 42nd day. The deal passed by the Senate would extend funding all the way through January 30th, Jody.
Wow. I love motorcycles, but I cannot imagine this time of year.
That's a long, cold
16
trip.
Hours.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, it is. Well, Casey, listen, you mentioned it, I did as well, but happy Veterans Day to you. I know there were a lot of activities taking place in Washington. What did President Trump do today?
Well, earlier today, President Trump honored our veterans with a wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery and expressed his gratitude to our troops and our veterans.
Today we remember with overwhelming gratitude the more than 1 million American service members who have made the supreme sacrifice and laid down their lives for the good old USA. Generation after generation, America's warriors have left behind the comforts of home and family to face violence, evil, and death so that our families could know joy, goodness, and peace. We honor them so strongly. Our heroes have lived through unthinkable nightmares so we could live the American dream. And the American dream is coming back again, stronger than ever before.
In that speech, President Trump went on to congratulate Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who was present at the ceremony, for what he called a Republican victory in the government shutdown standoff. And now Trump's support means he will almost certainly sign the bill when it does eventually, hopefully, land on his desk, Jody.
Well, a lot of gratitude to be expressed for sure all around. Casey, if we can turn to some international news, there are reports, and I was not aware of this yesterday, that Turkey was actually involved in the talks between President Trump and Syria's president at the White House yesterday. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, Jody, I think Turkey's involvement, not just in that meeting, but overall has been a surprise to a lot of people. But Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan met with top U.S. officials in Washington, included Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance. Now, they met to discuss developments in Syria and Gaza. Fidan also joined the meeting, as you mentioned, between President Trump and Syria's terrorist-turned-president, Ahmed al-Sharaa, who is a former al-Qaeda commander, now trying to present himself as a moderate after toppling the brutal regime of Syria's previous president, Bashar al-Assad. Now, after the meeting, President Trump called al-Sharaa a strong leader and said the U.S. wants to help Syria become a stable and successful part of the Middle East. He also suggested that discussions on a potential security agreement between Syria and Israel may be underway, which would be a big development. But with Erdogan's authoritarian tendencies and bad track record in Turkey, along with al-Sharaa's past as an al-Qaeda commander, there's plenty of concern to go around about the fate of Christians in both of those countries, Jody.
Yes. Speaking of that, before I let you go, there are reports now coming out of Sudan
Yes.
that are indicating some pretty serious threats in Christian communities there. What are you hearing on that front?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Jody. It's pretty amazing and terrible what's happening there. The United Nations actually said just today that women fleeing Sudan's al-Sharaa region, they're seeing killings, rape, and even their children being abducted by the rapid support forces there. So UN officials are warning that sexual violence is being used systematically as a weapon of that war, which means around 11 million women and girls in Darfur face going hungry. And to go and forage for food, they have to risk being attacked. Now, amid this chaos, the South Sudanese Christians in Khartoum are also facing growing fear. The church services there have become risky after arrests, including the arrest of Pastor Peter Perpeny, which is what happened during a funeral, believe it or not. But now many Christians avoid gathering or even leaving home, fearing some kind of arbitrary arrest and detention. Which is no surprise, Jody, that Sudan is ranked number 5 on Open Doors World Watch list for extreme Christian persecution.
Wow. All right, Casey, thank you so much for giving us the highlights. We appreciate it very much.